Welcome to the Budcast, episode 1, for real this time, where we discuss smart solutions to dumb problems, and we discuss dumb solutions to problems that no one has. Disclaimer, we don't claim to know anything that we're talking about or understand it. We are not experts in these fields, by any stretch of the imagination. Our opinions are not facts. With that being said, Ted, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm home from work, I'm drinking beer and G Fuel, and then there's another beer on my desk. Life is good, man. How are you?
Solid. I got a beer halfway through this one. Got another one on backup. I think I'm ready to go.
Perfect.
Also, side note, we'd just like to thank all you guys that did go watch the original the Budcast. We didn't really have a name for it. We now have a name for it. It's the Budcast. We really appreciate you guys taking a look and watching it. That one I'm going to call was the Budcast 0. This one's the first one, the official one, the real one, the one that we're going to go with. Perfect. So, thanks again for watching that. We hope you enjoy the rest of them.
Yeah, absolutely appreciated. Felt good on YouTube, man.
It did. It really did.
Yeah.
Makes me feel good. Warm inside.
Nice and fuzzy.
So, this Lego gun.
Yeah, so I sent Bud a video on Facebook earlier today of this guy, and he just makes this enormous fucking 50 caliber sized rifle entirely out of Lego. And the video starts and he's like actually loading a spring-loaded magazine of like fucking Lego shells into this magazine, sticks it into this giant rifle, and he shoots. And what was cool is that he actually, pulls it, the casing falls out after there was very clearly a projectile that got...
It didn't even just fall out, it was ejected.
Oh, like, yeah, just launched out, next shell went right in, and there was actually a projectile. It was pretty cool. But, as far as problems that no one has goes, I want it bigger and better and more stable. I want it to work more.
So we're going to discuss what we could do to improve that toy.
And make it no longer a toy.
Well, we can very quickly make something not a toy anymore. Well, okay, so the difference between a toy and a weapon is what it's used for. You put a propane tank and a bonfire in the middle of a field that's junk because the valve rusted shut, and it's got like half a can of propane left in it, and you shoot it with a 20 gauge from 50 feet away. That's a toy.
I really thought that was a turning into weapon.
No, that's a toy. That's fun. That's fun. It's a self-destructive toy, but it's a toy. Weapons are, war stuff, but we're not concerned with making weapons. We're concerned with making toys, right?
I just want to toe the line. I think that a toy that toes the line.
We'll be close. We'll get close to it. So I think probably the first thing we need to do is we need to discuss how it actually functions and what is going to be the limiting factor that we need to address. And I think that that's going to be propulsion. Like, what is moving that bullet out of the barrel of that Lego gun?
I think combination of propulsion and stability. Because as cool as this thing looked, it was flimsy as hell. And if you fired anything bigger out of it, or anything even the same size faster out of it, that gun's going to rip itself into pieces because it's made out of
So, a couple of things that we could discuss is the barrel. The barrel was flimsy, like he mentioned, and it tapered off and fell down. And that means that when that projectile is exiting the barrel, it's going to have friction, much like rifling in a barrel, is going to slow that projectile down because it's going to bump into the sides and it's not going to fly straight. So we'll need to get the barrel to be stable and straight as we can, but we also don't want our projectile to not be accurate. So we're going to need to fix the barrel as well and make sure that it's a smooth, I don't want to say smooth bore, but smooth bore, so that our projectile isn't having other forces in its trajectory out the end of the barrel being applied to it, so that when it does exit, it rotates and catches wind and spins and goes off course, and now we've got like muskets.
Yeah.
Which we're not great.
I think too, like, it matters like what's actually coming out of it, because this video wasn't super clear. It was only like 4 minutes. It was just like, look how cool this toy is, and it didn't actually like show what was being launched out of the shells, right? So I guess it makes a difference too, like the mechanisms that get whatever it is to launch. If you're firing like a marble, you know what I mean? Like, that's gonna be much more consistent than like firing a 2x4 Lego brick, which you can't exactly get to rifle.
Beer number 2. It's been a long day, man.
Dude, it felt.
College classes suck.
So
propulsion.
In your opinion, what was realistically coming out of that shell?
Probably a 2x4 brick. Well, not a 2x4,
Disgusting.
1x4.
Okay.
Probably, honestly, a 1x2 brick. A 1x2, like, real tiny brick.
Yeah.
Probably is what was coming out of the end of the barrel. Long, its characteristic length, L sub C, which is a heat transfer. Actually, your characteristic length is used a lot in engineering. Oh my god. It's in fluid power, it's in heat transfer, it's in fluid power, or fluid mechanics, fluid power, heat transfer, thermodynamics, like it's everywhere. You cannot avoid characteristic length. And by the way, you can calculate a characteristic length for a sphere. It's dumb, but you can.
I think this podcast just got smarter than I did.
So, oh god, what was it? I think it's L over 6. It'd be RO over 6, which would be the characteristic length for a sphere. Which RO being the radius of the outside of anyways. So, excuse me. So, we're going to look at the projectile first, I suppose. If we're firing a 2x1 brick, it's going to be short. It's not going to have a lot of mass, which means it doesn't need to have a lot of force behind it to propel it. But it also means that it's not going to have any sort of impact. So if we want something to have impact, we need to do one of two things. Increase the speed, increase the mass. Because if you have a dust particle in space, and you're in a space station that's going near the speed of light, and you happen to pass through a particularly dusty part of space, I'm talking like actual like dust, like a particularly dusty part of space, you're going to be perforated quite immediately. And you're not going to feel it. It's going to hurt like hell. Because you're traveling so fast that the amount of force imparted onto the object is just going to pierce you immediately. So, well, I guess that happens to do with pressure, but that's force over area is pressure. But so we're going to need to make our projectile more massive. So if we were to upgrade that to, like, let's say just like a 2x1, but it's lead, right? Much more dense.
Okay.
We're going to need to propel that now. And I don't think rubber bands are going to do it justice, because rubber bands have a functioning area of power, I guess you could say, at maximum extension. Like when you fully expand that rubber band, it's at maximum potential energy. As soon as you begin to decrease that and bring it closer, about halfway to when the rubber band would be relaxed is the amount of applicable force that you can generate, and it's not a lot. Especially as, like, let's say at maximum extension, at time 0, that rubber band has, let's just arbitrary number, 100, for easy math, has 100 potential. As soon as you decrease that rubber band by, I'd argue, 2 or 3%, you've lost like 20% of your, and these are just numbers, of course. I'm not sure I know what I'm talking about, but from experience, rubber bands have a very limited window where they can generate force in this application that we're creating. So we'd probably need to look at something a bit more either sudden or long-lasting for the force. And I think compressed air like a Nerf gun would do that quite nicely.
Okay, well, my long, expansive history with Nerf guns.
Yeah.
Either
where's my gun?
Mine's up north. It's 500 miles away. I looked at it today, or the other day when I went home. I literally opened up my closet, held it in my hands, and stroked it for a second, and then put it back in the closet because I didn't need it.
I always have it with me. And this is the one that I played HVZ with. It's got the double flipping barrels. Like, oh!
But
it's such a... Anyways.
Some of them also have, like, the automatic ones primarily have, like, a flywheel system, right?
Oh, I didn't even consider a flywheel system.
Where the motor, like, would continue to run as you use the trigger to activate the battery, and then, in that case, the Nerf dart hits the flywheel and, So, rather than... if you're trying to fire something with mass, right? I imagine that compressed air, like... in order to make it powerful enough to, make it where it doesn't just pew out of the barrel, you probably need a shitload of compressed air, and that's a whole lot of difficulty to have in just one system rather than carrying an air canister of compressed air on your back,
Yeah.
Like a computer fucking duster is not gonna propel enough air to fire a lead 1x2 Lego brick.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Well, now.
Actually, it could do it. It could do it, but only once.
Right. And how many? Like, I don't want a separate canister of air every time I want to fire one of these things.
Oh my god! Could you imagine? You find your target in the field, like Humans versus Zombies. You're like, that motherfucker, and you let fly. A massive concussive burst of air comes from your rifle, and because it's a sudden decompression, it's cold because it's going to absorb a ton of heat really quickly because that's how refrigerant works. So your rifle is going to be seeping this cold aura from it, and some dude 70 feet away is going to scream as he receives the biggest welt of his life.
You're going to puncture lung from a fucking Lego brick.
Dude,
I'm just imagining Rambo, like John Rambo running around through a field, but instead of like the giant bullets on the belt across his chest, it's just compressed air. Like it's this can, it's this can with the little duster guy just on Rambo's chest.
Could you, and like you fire once and you just see like this dude, like he just pulls like a can of compressed air. It's a bottle of water, but use your imagination. It's a can of compressed air, and he just like takes like a hammer or something, breaks the top off of it, shoves it into the gun, twists it in, pulls back the bolt, loads the next one, and finds the next target. You're just standing there like,
yeah, that's how you hit. That's how you hit two targets. The first one, the canister's already loaded. The second guy's like, "What the fuck was that?" And then you hit him while he's thinking about it.
Yeah, dude, psychological damage. Not only can I impart physical, psychological. So I think compressed air would work, but I guess now needs to be discussed the limitations of a build. Like we discussed, like we started with a Lego gun. Are we using components that are not Lego? Because if we're using components that are strictly Lego, then we have ways of propulsion, but it's probably not going to make it out the end of the barrel.
So that was my question with the flywheel, actually, because Lego does make their own motors, and most of them, yes. So most of them
gear ratios.
Most of them are relatively low powered, and most of them, in order to get more power, you use gear ratios rather than a bigger motor. But I also know that you can crank those motherfuckers to 11 and just get a battery.
So the problem with the gear ratio is as you increase your... Well, I don't want to say increase your ratio, but as you increase speed, you lose torque.
Right.
Like, you can have a flywheel that's spinning at 1,700 RPMs just fucking cuz. Assuming, mind you, that you don't melt the plastic. But as soon as you put your finger in there, it's going to come to a dead stop immediately. Now, this can be circumvented by having heavy flywheels that carry inertia. But mind you, if you don't burn out your motor and manage to bring your flywheel up to speed, it's going to lose a lot of speed after it imparts all of its energy into your bullet, which means that your time between firing is going to need to be pretty slow, and you're going to consume a lot of power.
Well,
but it's functional.
I think too that, like, if we're basing it off the video that we saw earlier, like, that was very clearly bolt action. Like, fire rate doesn't need to be fully automatic, right? Like, the time between for the flywheel to regenerate that speed, like, is totally fixed by the fact that you're removing the last casing and the next one goes in, right?
So I guess that would depend on how fast you can rack the bolt. Like, if you're like, bam, bam, like, like sound effects included.
Everyone knows Lego makes exactly that sound.
If you're really sending them, then that flywheel's not going to be able to hold its speed, and your bullets are going to decrease in velocity unless you give time for your flywheel to catch back up to speed. I think you could do that.
And then I guess my question, you said, like, the weight of the flywheels, right? Like, so if we're assuming all Lego parts, everybody knows those tiny little gray plastic gears, right?
Yeah.
Not only do I not know how much grip those things would give you on, like,
you'd use like a rubber
brick.
Tire. You'd use a rubber Lego tire. They make them.
That makes more sense, actually. And then, like, how well it would fire a square projectile. And then you mentioned earlier, as we started this conversation, like, accuracy. Like, that barrel, in order to keep your accuracy, has to be relatively sized to the projectile you're firing, right? If you've got a 1x2 brick that's this big and a barrel that's this big, that thing's just going to go wherever. It's going to hit the inside of your barrel 6 times.
Yeah, so you need something to guide the bullet or your projectile.
Or a more intelligently shaped projectile.
Or, yeah, a more intelligently shaped projectile that might have some sort of fluting to it, like an arrow, that would be able to self-stabilize in the air, which would reduce the necessity of a smooth barrel, but you'd still need a decent barrel. Like, there's no way
it would have to be relatively sized. Yeah.
Like, you could put a perfectly rifled, like, absolutely perfect bullet through a shitty barrel, and it's still not going to find its target. Like, it's definitely a mix of both. You got to have a good barrel. You have to have a good projectile. So I think, assuming that you're trying for your Lego cannon gun, whatever.
Nerf calls them blasters to avoid liability.
Yeah. So in order to deal with that, and if you want it to look like a gun, you're not going to be able to use a lot of Lego because, I mean, you don't need something to look like a gun to fire a projectile.
Sure.
Yeah, you don't. Like, you could build a pyramid and, like, shoot cannonballs out of the side of it with some hidden unknown mechanism, and, like, you're going to be like, that pyramid isn't a gun, so why did it just launch an 800mm cannon across the street? Like, or cannonball, more appropriately. That's like a basketball, dude. That's fucking big.
They're
large. The I don't remember the name of it. The Schwer or something from Germany in the late 1930s. The rail cannon that they built to fight against French forts, which were pretty fucking sturdy, was 80 centimeters, which is 800mm. That's a big fucking cannon. The cannon itself weighed over 2 million pounds, but I digress. So we would need to discuss whether we could build a structure with Lego that would be relatively mobile and still represent the shape of a gun without using different materials like a steel or aluminum rod to provide a structure to, connect to.
I'm thinking, like, so I don't know how much, like, Lego content you watch on Facebook, but I avoid doing my job at work a lot. So I'm thinking like frequently in these bigger mechanized builds, right? Like, they'll use, like, I don't even know if there's a name for them, but it's the Legos that have the holes through them, and that's usually so you can put an axle on them, right?
Yeah, Technic.
So if you like, aluminum's relatively lightweight, but also sturdier than just throwing a bunch of small Lego bricks together, right?
Yeah.
So if you could make this blaster the right size, right? Like, you could take an aluminum rod and stick it through the Lego Technic pieces, right? That could add stability to the length without adding too much weight.
That's something that we very much could do. And that would solve a lot of the issues of the barrel. Like, outside of, like, maybe manually polishing, like, the inside of the barrel, like the inner rails that's going to actually guide the projectile, that's going to fix a lot of your issues. Because right now our barrel is like I don't want to say it, but, like,
it's
flimsy.
It's limp. Yeah.
It's limp. Yeah. I'm sure you guys know where I was going to go with that, but I digress. So that's going to fix a lot of that, because now our barrel is going to be straight and the projectile is not going to be unnecessarily ricocheting off of the walls of the barrel, which, if you didn't know, whenever an object imparts a force on another object, both objects lose force, because it would be the efficiency of the transmission of the energy, and obviously it's not efficient. Like, billiard balls have a really, really high efficiency in regards to energy transfer between them, because they're very, very, very rock hard, solid objects that will not deform and instead immediately send the impact. And plastic has actually quite a bit of deformation to it. That gets into mechanics and materials, which is plastically and elastically deformation and whatnot and so on. So what? We've decided that we're going to be using flywheels, an aluminum rod supported barrel.
Yeah.
And 2x1 lead bricks.
Well, I guess I don't know if, like, a Lego brick is the best projectile. Like, it definitely keeps the theme of, like, let's make this as much Lego as humanly possible.
Sure.
Right? But, like, I'm not an engineer, and I know that Lego bricks aren't more aerodynamic than anything else.
So another thing that we could that is worth discussing is the projectile itself. If we're looking at a flywheel, so for a comparison, maybe to help people understand, when you fall out of an airplane, it's not the fall that kills you; it's the sudden stop at the end. So in order to, I know, right?
Bud
so
sounds like my dad.
It is. It's the sudden stop at the end, man. It's not the car. It's not the car crash. It's you coming to a stop. Unless the engine comes into your lap, and well, in which case it could be the car. Anyways, hey man, that shit's fucked.
True.
So, for the length of time, in order to survive a sudden fall, you need to spread out the time at which you're absorbing the impact. So, if you spread out that time, you're going to be able to absorb more energy. Conversely, if we have a longer projectile that's in contact with those flywheels for a longer time, we'll be able to receive more energy from those flywheels.
Okay.
That's why, like, when you have really long, like, Nerf darts, and you slam, like, a Nerf dart through and the flywheels are going way too quick, and it shreds the Nerf dart, well, it's because, like, it was in contact for a while, and, like, it absorbed a lot of energy suddenly. But okay, you had something.
I brain blasted there. I went all Jimmy Neutron, dude, as you said, in contact with the flywheel longer, right? So, do you ever play with the Lego Star Wars set? And the lightsabers that were like the long colored rods? Yes! I saw the look on your face! I know you know where I'm going!
I am terrified.
So, if you could make those slightly bigger, right? Like, I don't know if you can make something that narrow, like, consistently moving at enough speed to, like, make it worth firing, right? But if you could find one that was a little thicker around, right? It's not quite shaped like a bullet or a Nerf dart, but is that same, like, cylindrical shape. It would be easy to shape. It
sounds like we're just firing AAA batteries.
I wasn't thinking that thick or nearly that heavy because I'm trying to keep it Lego theme. But I mean, if you want to fire batteries, why not go all the way up to D-cell?
So if we just assume that the Lego lightsaber, like just a straight cylindrical piece of plastic that happens to be slightly larger because maybe we got a defective Lego set, right?
Yeah.
We're sending that through the flywheel. I'm scared now.
Yeah, same.
Because it's not going to welt. It's going to pierce.
I told you, we're trying to toe the line dangerously.
That's like point blank range. That's going to impale. Like, that's like going through skin.
All right,
I'm assuming that we're launching it at a velocity of which I'm thinking.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess the velocity at which you're thinking is limited by how fast we can make a Lego motor go. Because if we're assuming as many Lego parts as possible, right? I don't know that we're gonna make that bullet rip at 18,000 miles a second. Okay, I don't think Lego's capable of that kind of power.
There's a guy on YouTube. I don't know his name, but like he does a lot of crazy like Lego Technic tests with gears and transmissions, and like he built a Lego press that was capable of exerting over 300 pounds of force casually.
And I've seen the ones that gets one of the
intimidating.
I've seen one of the ones that gets the Lego tire to move at 10,000 RPM.
Yeah,
I've seen it. I've seen it. But I also saw the tire ripping off of that plastic rim, and that's not going to be an effective flywheel for us. So I'm thinking, like within our limitations, right? If we got one that's maybe like double the diameter it is now, right? Then it's not. I mean, it's not the size of a AAA battery, right? But it's thick enough. It's thick enough that like. It's got enough mass to it that it can consistently move, right? About the same length, just double the diameter as a Lego lightsaber. I love that I get to use this as a reference and not sound like a moron.
Well, dude, we don't even need to use the Lego We don't even need to use the Lego lightsaber. The Lego Technic have long crossbarred, like they're not cylindrical, but they're long crossbar,
right?
Like connectors that you attach things to. Like you could use one of those, and you could have varying lengths. Short range, long range.
I suppose that's true.
Anti-tank round.
I think then my issue comes in with the casing on the one that we saw.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking casing. I was thinking direct feed. Because if we're using a
direct feed makes this no longer a bolt action rifle. Direct feed means how stupid can we use Lego to injure people?
So the problem is you can't really use a flywheel in a instance where you have a casing. unless you're going to do what Call of Duty Mobile did during the Overwatch League and fire the whole bullet out of the barrel. I saw that Call of Duty. Fix your shit. I saw that. That pissed me off. They shot the whole bullet, casing, primer, and everything right out of the end of a barrel for Call of Duty Mobile. I'm like, the biggest video game franchise in regards to war, guns, weaponry, fired the whole ass bullet out of the end of this barrel.
As a
are you kidding me?
As a sidebar,
anyways,
I get that same level of frustration when people don't reload in movies, but we can move on.
Yeah, dude, being an engineer has ruined action movies for me completely. Ruined them. Like, I'm not a movie guy because I can't watch a movie anymore without critiquing every little fucking nitpicking detail. Anyways, so with a flywheel system, the only thing that a case would serve is to bring the projectile to the flywheel, whereas a casing, traditionally, is there to contain an explosion. So the only way I would see using a casing is if you're going to do belt-fed, like Nerf did one time with a belt-fed blaster that they had. It's actually really cool. It was a mechanical one, but it used air. It used compressed air, and that's where I'm going with this. Pardon me. Is that if you have a casing, your force applied to the projectile needs to be behind the casing, whereas a flywheel is in front of the projectile. So if we're doing a casing, we're going to need to do something with either like a compressed pin with rubber bands that's going to hit and fire the projectile and impart the force that way, or compressed air or something similar. So otherwise, a casing's pretty worthless in the application with a flywheel.
Is it possible to do a combination of both? The compressed air launches it out of the casing, then it hits the flywheel and increases speed. And
so
I think we've crossed the line from toy again.
No, very much so. It's okay. Problems that no one has, smart solutions to dumb problems. You know how it is. So the one thing that I didn't mention because I didn't think it was worth it, but now it is the shock of the system. You take something that's going no miles per hour and imparted upon an object that's going 80 miles an hour. Well, it needs to have a middle ground. So let's say that the mass of both objects, so the flywheels that are spinning, are the same mass as the object that we're trying to propel. Logically, assuming no other friction is introduced, both the flywheel and the projectile are going to hit 40 miles an hour, which means that your entire gear train has now come to a sudden halt and experienced a heavy amount of shock. Now, that's not necessarily an issue because we're using plastic gears, and plastic can absorb impact quite nicely, but in an industrial application, almost all gears are case hardened, which means that we made the gear, we machined it, and now we slammed it into a furnace, brought it to an extreme amount of temperature, introduced a ton of carbon, and quenched it really quick, making the surface hard like a diamond. Which means that if you were to introduce that kind of a shock to a metal sintered hardened gears like that, they're going to shatter. And I think at that kind of an extreme, you're just going to break all the teeth off these plastic gears. So where this matters is if we were to impart, instead of having a pusher rod that would push the bullets or the projectiles into the flywheels, having something that would force the projectiles into the flywheels at 30 miles an hour, and then the flywheel will bring it up to 70 miles an hour, there will be a significant amount less shock in the system. But now you've got so many mechanical moving components that there's bound to be failure. And that's why rubber bands, they're so simple. It's rubber band, pull, let go, it went boing boing across the floor. Whereas we're trying to get up to what feels like Mach 7. It really does.
Launch a plastic toy so hard it no longer seems like plastic as it cuts a hole in your chest, right?
I mean, I don't know. So I think we've done that. I think we've done this gun a disservice, a service. I don't know. It is. I have regressed into my chair, having satisfyingly known what I could create with Lego.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like we've done enough to just get ourselves on the outskirts of making something really dangerous, and now we're just
stop where we're ahead.
And if we don't consider any other limitations or any other problems, this thing is great and we're fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm sitting sideways at my desk. I'm not even facing my computer.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair. Like, I have a problem. I have a problem with streamers, right? Who like put their camera like straight on. Like, I don't.
You mean like this?
Yeah, right. I can't stare at somebody doing a whole stream like that, right?
Yeah, so, no, that's like, give me an off angle, man. Come on.
Right. So like, my buddy Binary, right, an Aussie buddy. He suggested in a stream that I was watching, definitely not at 2:30 this morning when I woke up before my alarm clock. He was discussing how like small streamers who want to grow have better stream production values than major streamers, right? And so, like, I was thinking about all the ways that was true because I was trying to avoid going back to sleep and having my alarm piss me off for being asleep for 4 seconds. And I thought about things like camera angles. Like, before we started recording, I started talking about Nick Merckx, right? Who pisses me off so badly because not only does he play from a fucking PlayStation, but all you can see on his stream is this. This is the whole camera angle for Nick Merckx, all right? I started thinking about, like, Ninja, whose camera is back here. You're basically looking at the back of his head as he's just screaming at 8-year-olds on Fortnite, right? And they've got good transitions, and they definitely look professionally done, but there's nothing else going on with those streams, right?
Sure.
And so I thought about all the, like, how much, like, am I putting in too much work? Are we putting in too much work to make, like, streaming and being, like, I don't know if, like, public personas is quite the right way to put it, because I think that, like, that implies we're bigger than we are. Nobody actually gives a shit about me or what I'm doing. But like, in what ways are we putting in too much work for the few people that do watch our stream that just, like, clearly aren't?
Which, by the way, we appreciate you.
Oh, facts, 100%, dude, 100%. But like, are there things that we're definitely putting too much work in to make a stream successful that, like, we wouldn't have to do?
I'm not sure.
You know, I've like, one of my favorite Overwatch League Overwatch streamers is Emong, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have any transitions. He doesn't have any intro. There's nothing going on but face Overwatch, and that's the whole.
I guess that would come down to definitely what you're playing, because if you're there for the person, like a just chatting streamer, like, you know, they're gonna have, like, really nice transitions. They're gonna have, like, a really nice camera, good audio quality, good camera angle, like a really nice background, like a theme. Sure. But if you're going for, like, Emong, who you mentioned doesn't have much anything that looks good in regards to the quality of the extra stuff that you need, that you would like to have when you stream, but you're there for the gameplay.
Yeah, I think,
like, I will admit that I watched Ninja, like, once or twice, and I didn't give a shit about his camera. I didn't give a fuck what he looked like. Like, you know, you do you, man. I just want to see you stomp an 8-year-old into the fucking ground because you shot at him and he turned into a 40-story building. Like, dude, you shoot someone in Fortnite, they turn into a 40-story building, then fall off of it on accident because they ran out of building materials and they die anyways. Like, great. Like, I didn't have to waste my ammo to get you. I've played Fortnite, like, twice.
Yeah, I hate the game. But, like, I agree with you, but I guess my whole thing is, right, like, where do you draw the line between streamer content and, like, public entity, right? Like, you're not going to go and turn on ESPN, right, and watch an athlete doing an interview. They're going to have a transition between his face talking to you, and they're going to care about lighting and camera position and all that in the interview setting, but then they're also going to transition to his game footage, and then they're going to worry about, like, camera placement and the stats that show up across the bottom and what highlight is on that makes them look good and what camera angles they use for said highlight. And, like, if you go and watch, like, okay, Dr. Lupo's an awesome example where, like, he cares about, like, his public image, right? And that, like, he's definitely an entertainer. And even though a lot of people show up for his gameplay, like, there's also an entertaining aspect to him. Where Ninja, like, okay, he's got his camera and there's, like, you know, a border around his camera, and, you know, he's got the transition to get back into the screen with his face. Like, you know, I've got images and I've got, like, you know, the sub alerts on my screen, and I've got sound effects, and like, there's an image that pops up with the CCG logo on it, and like, how much of that just, like, I think you're a beautiful man, bud, but, like, Nobody's there to see your face. Nobody's there to see my face. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know, man. You show up to my streams to see my face.
That's okay. I'm the exception to the rule, but we simp all the homies here, all right? I guess just like how much of what we're doing is totally unnecessary.
The thing, I like that question and I hate that question, because while I agree wholeheartedly that like if you're gonna play a game to be good at it, you don't need to, like ZFG. He does tons of Legend of Zelda. Like specifically right now, I think he's trying to perfect and route a speed run for the 100% category for Ocarina of Time. And he doesn't have a camera. He doesn't have transitions. I don't think he's rated, like, at least in the last stream I was in, he didn't bother to rate anyone. He just said, nah, go find someone you like watching. And he just ended his stream. Like, there was no, like, send-off. There was no goodbye. There was no see it. And he had, like, 3.3 thousand people just kind of casually watching him. Like, you know, if what you're doing is good, like, you're good at what you're doing, I don't think people will, I don't want to say that they won't care for the extra stuff. Like, it certainly helps, but it's not going to be the reason they stay. It's kind of like when you go to like a Waffle House and like the ceiling's falling in and like they got a water leak in the back room and like there's mold growing in the corner, but the waffles are fucking fantastic. I wouldn't know. I'm just using the reference. Maybe you're about like
all their food tastes like cardboard.
Dude, I don't know. Waffle House is like all we have here is Waffle House, man. It's not even in the area. I have to drive like 50 minutes to get to a Waffle House. I've never been. It's just an example. But like,
I get it.
Point remains. You didn't show up for the atmosphere. You showed up because the food's fucking delicious.
I
having an atmosphere is nice.
But
it's not a requirement.
Like to an extent, that makes sense to me, right? Is that like if people are there solely for your gameplay, like yeah, dude, like play the game, and that's what people are there to watch. Yeah. But to some extent, like if that's what you're doing as a career, like. You know, I'll never judge a small streamer on the way that they elect to do their content. Dude, it's your stream, it's your room, like, you do what you want to do. If you want your face to be the primary part of the screen and the tiny little postage stamp in the corner down at the bottom, you know, is your gameplay, like, if that's what you want your stream to look like, dude, by all means. But if you're somebody who is like Ninja or you know, somebody like a real big streamer, like, shouldn't you, like, put work into making your stream look like it's professional because it is your profession? You know what I mean? I'm not disagreeing. No, like I think like I mentioned, like, you know, if you could have Waffle House waffles, which are great, or you could have like IHOP pancakes, which are equally great, but IHOP isn't falling apart, like you're gonna go to IHOP. Yeah, like the difference for me for watching, you know, Dr. Lupo versus the next biggest Tarkov streamer on any particular day might be that like Lupo's entertaining and it looks like he gives a shit about what he's doing, right? Like I don't expect anybody to like compare my stream next to Ninja's or Shroud's stream and just be like, hey, let's go watch Ted instead because he's got a cooler transition. Like that's not. I don't expect anybody to stick around for that. But if you are putting in the time and the effort, like streaming's fucking hard, man. To do that every day is not easy. And if you've chosen that as a career path,
I haven't been able to.
If you've chosen that as a career path and you're putting in 60, 70 hours of that a week, plus like all of the time you're putting into other content creation like YouTube and tweeting and Instagram and other clips and highlights and all that, like, wouldn't you want it to look more professional, look more like you want it to look? You've got the money and the research. Ninja signed a $30 million deal with Mixer, right? He worked for 8 months. Mixer collapsed and turned into Facebook Gaming, and they paid him out his contract, reportedly. All of those details reported. I don't know anything about what I'm talking about. But, like, at that kind of money, right, well, he's still generating revenue from YouTube, he's back to Twitch now. Like, don't you think you could turn that into, like, more like what you wanted your stream to look like? I guess, like, to an extent, I can't judge if he wants his stream to just be, here's camera, here's game, no transition, this is simple, I do what I want to do. And, like, alright, fine, dude. But I find that, like, most of these bigger streamers, like, don't have high production value looking streams. And I would just think that, like, if that's your profession, like, I would think I would want it to look more done.
Sure, and I'm not in any way disagreeing. I full-heartedly agree. Like, you know, if it's something that you enjoy, it's something that you're using as, like, your profession, like, you should try to make it look as good as you want it to be. But on the flip side, like, how many times do you think that these guys have thought, like, well, I put in a ton of effort, I've made it here, and now I need to put in a minimal amount of effort, which means that I can impart less stress on my life and still manage to maintain my current state that I'm at, which is where I want to be, and they're not concerned with growing anymore. Like, I don't want to say, like, the way I'm saying is, like, oh yeah, like, I got to, like, 7,000 people watching me actively on live, and, like, I'm making tons of cash. I don't need to work anymore because these guys will follow me no matter what because I am ninja, like.
Right. I guess content creation to me feels like get it while it's there. Yeah, always need another one.
I didn't grab 3, so.
Yeah. I guess content creation feels so, like, I don't want to say unstable, but it's not consistent. It's not guaranteed.
There's no standard.
Yeah.
Content creation, if we're looking at it in terms of a standard career path that's like you're working for a company that's been established for 140 years, like, content creation didn't really hit big until what, 2013, 2014?
Sure.
When, like, you know, Markiplier, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, like, started becoming well known and started making some actual serious money doing content creation. Because before then, I don't want to say before then that every single person that was doing content was doing it because it was fun.
Right.
But, like, content creation, streaming, like, YouTube videos, animations, drawings, stuff like that, is still very, very new in terms of already previously established career paths like, you know, finances, banking, engineering, architecture. You know, it's still like, so there's no hard and fast standard.
Well, and
that any of these streamers are, like, quote unquote being held to.
And I think too that it's like, it's really fluid. You know, I don't by any means have the highest paying job, but I know I'm going to get paid every 2 weeks. It's stable. It's standard. The dollar amount is fixed. If you're in sales, where even if you're making commission and it's not salary based, right? Like, you still know that, like, hey, if I work this hard, if I sell this thing, I make this much money, and that's, like, this is the minimum amount of what I have to sell.
Yeah.
In, like, I recognize that most of these huge streamers are on contracts, but, like, you also have to, like, kind of like an athlete does, like, you have to play for that contract. If Ninja or Pokimane or Tyler One or whoever, if they just decide, like, hey, I'm not streaming until my contract is up, I'm just going to take the next 18 months, 36 months, whatever it is, off, and I'm not going to stream, like, okay, maybe your contract says that you get paid for that, but also, like, are you getting a next one? Or if one of these streamers, like, the whole thing with Dr. Disrespect, that no one has any idea what's going on, right? If he had done something so serious that, like, no streaming platform is going to take him, he's not making money. Like, yeah, you know, he's got his YouTube content. You're walking up, still pays him, but
I would say that it's not stable. Like, you know, like Alinity.
If you,
like, and her wardrobe malfunction, like, she got banned. Like, she got unbanned, sure, but if you're banned and that was your entire income, and let's say you just put a down payment on a brand new house, or, like, put a down payment on a $60,000 car, and then you were banned and you lost your income, like, game over, man.
Well, and
which I think it's fiscally irresponsible to. I don't want to say that turning streaming into a career is fiscally irresponsible, because it can be very beneficial and it can be a career, but, like, you know, I always go on the mentality, don't buy something until you can buy it twice.
Right, and I think, like, that
comes down to managing your own money, not streaming.
You know, a lot of it, though, is, like, not even, like, managing your income or whatever income you do make, but I think a lot of it is, like, you know, at any point in time, streaming could just end for you. People could stop finding you entertaining. People could stop enjoying your content, or somebody new could come and replace you in whatever game you're playing, right? Yeah. So I would think that, like, in that streaming position, you'd want to put yourself in positions to make your stream look different or look better, or keep yourself competitive and cutting
constantly
edge with the
evolving
things
to be competitive.
Exactly. And I think a lot of that comes into, like, the value of your stream production. You know, I forget the dude's name that Phobot turned me on to, that, like, he's entertaining with his gameplay, but he's got no camera, he's got no intro, he's got no transitions, he doesn't talk to his stream, he just kind of plays game and is entertaining. Yeah.
That felt good, man. That's a good crack.
I just like the face. But like if somebody else comes along and starts playing the same game and their stream production looks really good and you get to and he's interactive, the next guy's interactive and the next guy's stream looks really good and he's doing all of these things on top of being just entertaining and playing the game well, like why wouldn't you go to the next guy's stream instead of the first guy's stream for anything other than I was watching that guy's stream first? His audience could dwindle because they found the next best thing. Like I would, with all of the money that these guys have the ability to make streaming, and all of the resources they have available to them in terms of like other content creators, things like graphic designers or video editors or even like moderators or Twitch editors that can edit things in the spot, like I would think that like you'd want to make your stream look better to stand apart from the people next to you, that there are people that could do it for you without you having to spend the time on top of the time you spend streaming.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's definitely an interesting thought.
Yeah. I would just want to stand out a little if I were in that position, but
Yeah, no, so that
here
like
I am, humbled by my few. Thank you all.
Yeah, I need to if it weren't for college, man, I would be streaming so much more because I want to do a 12-hour Satisfactory stream so freaking badly. Especially with the new update that's coming out. Oh my god, dude, I'm excited for it. I am so excited for it. Like, I'm ready.
I
didn't think that you'd be excited for something like that, but like I know you are.
I hate you for turning me on to just a game that's just like build this thing, okay? Like
I know how you are with no end goals. Like build something to collect other things faster, so you can build other things to collect things faster.
I know.
And
I know.
Why you hate Minecraft,
right?
But you don't hate Satisfactory.
Satisfactory is the lowest circle of hell for me because it's everything I hate while I keep going back to enjoy it. Okay? It's like, hey, I know this game is just like get better things to advance yourself to make better things and I can like conscientiously recognize that, right? I can see it as I'm playing it, but they go, hey, the next hub upgrade, this is what you have to do and it's so close and so achievable. And like it's little goals. It feels like progress, even though I've done nothing but make the systems I already had just go a little bit further and a little bit better. And I hate
you hear this, Ted?
I do. Is that
you know what this is?
It's your Satisfactory diagram for full efficiency.
I'm
so upset at you.
It happens to be my Satisfactory logic diagrams for multiple systems, and I built more than one. There's another one.
As Bud shows off his drawings there, the Satisfactory is teasing a new update for it's a fluid update.
3.5.
Yes. The thing is it still
excited?
Is it still in alpha? The game's still. I don't think it's full release, right? I think the major updates, like the major content updates, like 3.5. I think they're restricted to beta testers. I don't think they're open to the general public because otherwise we'd have already gotten like a ton of reviews. I think those get launched en masse to the stable build of the game for anyone to play. Okay, but I thought the game to an alpha. My point was that the game wasn't on full release. I don't think they were still in productive stages. Yeah.
I'm quite positive that the game is still early access. Yes.
Okay. Early access might have been what I was looking for rather than alpha.
Yeah, not alpha.
Yeah.
Minecraft was an alpha and beta.
Yeah,
not that you care.
No, I don't. But so the thing that they were teasing in the most recent video was like packaging fluids. All right, and I don't know if you guys have seen any of our streams involving Satisfactory because I know both of us have been off of it for a minute.
God, it feels like a year ago, but it was at the beginning of. It was actually at the end of last semester, I think.
Yeah, it would have been in the spring. March, April, May, maybe.
Yeah, because that's when it came out to the Steam library. Because it was on the Epic Game Store, but I refuse to use the Epic Game Store so long as I can avoid it. Because Fortnite.
The last time I actually launched the game was July 4th weekend. I rember playing, and I think Bud had stopped it beforehand because he had finished everything he wanted to finish.
Around the 4th of July, I think I put an unhealthy amount of hours in it. I think
Bud
it was something like I think I was pushing 120 hours in 2 weeks.
It was disgusting.
It was like literally wake up, play game, go to bed, wake up, play game, go to bed, like 8, 9, 10 hours a day. Like the game would constantly run. Like, oh my god, Oh, I love that game.
I think the thing that like so Bud had hit it where he had like maximized the efficiency of his entire base, and the game was lagging rather than him being able to play it.
It lagged for you.
Okay, all right. So
it didn't lag a whole lot for me, but now knowing what I know what I need to do differently.
Server also had issues, but Bud had reached the point where he was at max efficiency. He had built all the pieces he needed to get the game as upgraded as it was at the time. I was dreading a base rebuild to make everything more efficient and exist in one place.
Base rebuilds are fucking daunting tasks.
I'm going to have to put 20 hours worth of work into rebuild my base the way that I want to, and I think that's the only reason I haven't launched the game again. Like, getting it halfway done is going to feel like shit.
I'm gonna just say it. I'm not gonna show it. Maybe we can get it in editing later. But like my satisfactory base, I've got pictures of it in the Discord. And although looking at it, it's impressive. I want to build 3 times larger than what you're seeing right now. Maybe if we remember to put it in after editing, and separate it across the entire world that is satisfactory, which is, by the way, fucking gargantuan.
It's insanely massive.
Like I went and looked at least one of the images I showed. And it's fucking love that. It was sexy. It was like 6 layers of straight manufacturing, like madness. Oh, it was like turn on.
But I guess what pieces are you looking for out of a new update, Bud? Like what
out of a new update? So like
if they're teasing fluid updates, what are you specifically looking for that would be an enticement to you?
Originally, when the game launched, they said that there would not be pipes. There would not be fluid transport. Update 3 gave us pipes, which shook the community at large. As large or small as the community is, I'm unaware of how large the satisfactory community is, but it shook the community to its fucking core, and it made people like me, who were not a part of the community yet, like, holy fuck. Because we were really just I was waiting for it to come to Steam, because fuck Epic. But, what I'd like to see is Mark II pipes that could either move a larger amount of fluid, better pumps that could increase, generate more pump head, which means the head, 30 feet ahead means you can pump fluids 30 feet above its current location, so you don't need 47 pipes to go, 100 feet into the air. Better pumps, and it would be really cool if they would do something with pressurization. So, if you have 2, 3, 4 pumps, which are pumping fluid at full flow rate into one singular pipe, the pressure is going to skyrocket. I think it would be kind of cool. I don't know how it would work mathematically in the game itself or functionally in the game to have pressure introduced. You could just deem them high pressure pipe.
Yeah, the game does have a whole shitload of math, which is why Bud has actually written out diagrams for efficiency, because
it's not complex math. It's just a lot of simple math. It's so I have this machine making 30 ingots per second, and I have 2 machines that can consume 11.5 ingots per second, and I can overclock one to bring that up to 15 ingots per second, so now I'm consuming 26.5 ingots per second. I don't know if that math's right. I'm literally rattling numbers.
You nailed it.
You
nailed it.
So now I have 3.5 ingot overflow, so I can either decrease the efficiency. Well, I don't want to say decrease the efficiency, but decrease the production of the furnace so it consumes less power and meets demand, so that I'm floating around 99, 100% efficiency, because you can have 101% efficiency, and that will just be the backup onto the rails. So if you have a 100% efficient factory, you will never have any sort of backup on your conveyor belts. It should be consuming just as fast as it's producing, and that's very possible in the early game.
Right.
In the late game, the numbers become very, very, very crunchy, where you're okay, this machine's, and literally it comes down to 3 digits. It's this machine's consuming 7.125, and I'm generating 8.5, so I need to have 4 machines, one overclocked to 16 in order to fund enough resources into 2 machines so that it's still efficient to a degree. And I think near the end of the game, into the really upper tier complex stuff, I think I was pushing, I didn't want anything to be under efficient, because I was building the system as though every single system preceding that current system was receiving maximum efficiency. So in order to circumvent that, I was making every machine, at least in the start of the assembly line, produce 100 or greater, so that I would have a backup. And that was just to ensure that I would have a consistent output, because I wasn't necessarily concerned about the backup at the input line more than I was concerned about a consistent output. I'm going to stop there, but I think you get what I'm getting at. Is like, and the game's majestic, and I fucking love it, and it's amazing.
But before like dissuading anybody to not play this game because it's too much math, like you can definitely jump into this game and not care about it.
Yeah, no, you do not need to do all the math by any. You do not have to.
Right. But like, it feels really good to get a system that produces everything it can produce. The issue with the game, right? No, I don't even want to call it an issue. Is like at the beginning of the game, it's just like, all right, produce iron ingots, which means put a miner on the ore, send it on a conveyor belt, put it through a furnace, and then it comes out with ingots. You shove them into the hub. Right, you shove them in. You shove it into the hub, and it's done. Right. Then the problem is, okay, now that we've got this ingots, now you need to turn it into rods and screws and plates. Okay, which is fine. So you take the conveyor belt, you split it into 3 more manufacturers, or is it assemblers? Whatever. There's something before manufacturers.
Assemblers are the big ones. Assemblers are two-part components.
I thought the manufacturers were the big ones. Regardless. There's 3 of them. You take the ingots out. You stick them through
Mark 2, Mark 3.
You take them out on a belt. You stick them through one machine, and it takes it from just raw iron blocks, and it turns them into rods. Easy enough. Okay, well now you need screws, and now you need to take those rods and you need to turn them into screws, which is just cutting them off and threading them, but like
fasteners.
Yeah. Okay, well now you have to introduce copper, and you have to do all those same steps, and now you're 4 steps deep into that, and now it's like, okay, we'll combine some of the copper parts and some of the iron parts, and then over here you need these other things that use copper and iron and limestone, and then there's this other section that needs the oil and water, and you just and all of these things just have to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into this web. Not only do you need to generate enough resources, but like, you also need to figure out how those resources are getting used, where they are in the map, and how to continue the progress along further and further and further and further. And when you care about numbers the way that Bud and I do, mostly Bud, you have to make your system efficient, where you're not like mining 120 iron ore per second to only put out 2 screws an hour, right? Like, yeah. And you have to make the game function that way. But then the introduction of so not only do you have to do all of these things, but you also have to find a way to generate power, right? And so when I started playing the game, it was
power generation early game fucking sucks. It's all biomass, and it sucks, and I hate it.
Which pretty much turns into shoves leaves into fire. You're gonna run out every 0.2 seconds. And then you're out of power. So somebody farms leaves for weeks and weeks and weeks on end.
Until you get coal.
Right. You advance the game, you get coal power, but then you need water to deal with the coal, and so that you have to build...
go out and find a location that has both coal and water, or you need to bring coal to the water.
Which is really hard to do when you're farming leaves for weeks at a time. But then you get past...
You have to bring production pretty much to a standstill in order to scout this out. And then, even when you do unlock the coal power, it requires copper sheets, which you probably haven't manufactured yet because you didn't need them yet. So now you need copper sheets in order to make the coal, in order to get the water, in order to go into the coal generator. And now you need a new set of logistics, which is pipe logistics and fluid transport. And like, you have coal generators unlocked, but you can't quite use them effectively yet. So you're still collecting leaves and shoving them into the fire.
Yeah. And then beyond that, like, you can go into oil production, which still requires multiple resources. And then you have like byproducts when you get into oil, so you have to figure out where to put the excess and how to dump the excess, or how to use it into something else, and how you manufacture all of that, and then how you transport it back to your base. I think the cool thing from this update that was coming is like the one thing that they highlighted specifically in this teaser was
fluid packer.
Right, it packs fluid. You ever had like one of those water coolers at the office where you flip the water bottle? It's just shoving water on a fucking conveyor belt, and it comes out in those water jugs.
Yeah, well, you have to input a container, but yeah.
Sure, but like theoretically, if you're already at the point where you're doing oil or coal power anyway, like it might make the ability to transport water and make your base more cohesive, like it might give the ability to do that. I'm
and in the early game, like you can generally like in easy mode, I guess I would say, like if you spawn into like the green, like the grasslands, or into like the forest area, like I think like number 1 and number 2 on the list for difficulty, like you can generally find coal next to water. But if you go into like level 4, it's all the same world, it's just a different spawn location, and you're in the desert, you either take the coal to the water or you bring the water to the coal. Like they are not next to each other.
And I think the ability to transport it makes it a whole lot better. Yeah. I guess having progressed where I wouldn't call myself necessarily late game, but I'm edging late game.
You're like late mid.
I think I'm right on the precipice of once I do this base rebuild, I'm ready for late game. But
despite the fact that you haven't played so long that you'd need to start fresh because you don't remember anything about you.
100%. 100%.
I could probably genuinely log into my old Satisfactory game. It would probably take me about 30-40 minutes, but I could probably remember how I built that thing from the ground up. And if I looked at my conveyor, and this is the thing with the, like, I made sure to tune everything, even all the way to the miners bringing up iron. Like, I didn't have those miners producing more iron than my system was demanding. So I bet you I could go to those miners, find how much they're producing, follow those lines, and run into the smelters and figure out what smelters are producing what amount of iron, and I can almost guarantee I can tell you where they're going into that factory.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting, but yeah. So
that being said,
I'm excited to see the potential that this update can bring, particularly like back to my like I'm not quite late game, but I think like depending on where you'd spawned or where you'd set up your base or whatever, like I think this update can specifically make the mid game easier now that I've been past the mid game to know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know that I don't know that it's super helpful like right now and right in this instance for where I am in my game, but I think it would be cool to see how it can be utilized if I decide to do another run through.
Yeah. So I think that I'm extremely excited for this new update. I'm looking. I can't make any guarantees, but I'm looking to do a 12-hour Satisfactory stream at some point in the future. It'll probably be a solo game because I need to I'm gonna be doing a lot of internal math, and I mean, yeah, you can join me. I won't say that you can't, but you're definitely gonna be like a bitch boy. You're gonna be like, hey, I need
we
X,
know how I
Y,
run
Z
survival games.
Like, hey, I go collect 7,000 leaves and shove them into the biomass generator for me. Like, and I know you're good at that.
It's what I do best.
So, but I think that should just about wrap up the Budcast. So I say that because we're generally aiming to have only about an hour. We appreciate you guys watching this, but we also want to respect your time to watch this. We don't want to ramble for 3 hours and you guys not be able to watch it all in one sitting or something like that. So
I also wholly believe, Bud, that we could literally just continue having conversations about nothing.
4 hours.
Yeah, right. We could just continue transition from one thing to the next stupid thing we have no idea what we're talking about and go for a week and a half. So it benefits us to cut this off too.
Yeah, so with that being said, we appreciate you guys watching our Budcast. Well, it's the Budcast because it was my idea, but Ted, without Ted, it wouldn't happen. So I appreciate you. Thank you for watching the Budcast. If you guys have comments, questions, ideas maybe that you'd like to see us discuss or anything like that, drop it in the comments in the YouTube video. I say that because originally this was going to be like a live stream thing, and now it's just going to be a YouTube thing. Maybe, not sure yet. But again, we really appreciate you guys sticking around and watching this through. If you have anything you want to tell us, let us know in the comments. We do have a Discord. It'll probably also be posted in the video description. And that's all I've got to say. What do you got?
Yeah,
you got anything?
We referenced a couple of videos. I guess I'll link the video I found earlier to the Lego gun. I'll link that in the comments, as well as the Satisfactory teaser if anybody's actually interested in that. And then I guess if you guys have dumb we literally talked for almost half an hour today about a fucking Lego gun. So yeah, if you guys have dumb problems that you think you would enjoy us morons talking about, please, yes, by all means.
To recap, it's where we discuss smart solutions to dumb problems and dumb solutions to problems that no one has. And I think with that being said, I think this is a good place to end it. What do you think?
I'm about it.
Alrighty. Take it easy.
See y'all.